Jarren Duran had a slow month of September at the plate, but was the Red Sox MVP all season long. What does his future look like in Boston?
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Hurlbut, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I am here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And the best part is it is all completely free. So you might as well check it out because Locked On is your team every single day. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to win $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Welcome to another episode of the show. Happy playoff baseball day. Unfortunately, it's not as happy of a playoff baseball season for us Red Sox fans here, as the Red Sox came up short of making the playoffs this season because ultimately they could not stay consistent in the second half, and a lot of games that they should have won that they ended up losing. And you can point to a lot of different events and circumstances from this season that might have led to the Red Sox second half downfall, but a lot of it is roster based. Lots of moves need to happen this offseason. And honestly, November cannot come soon enough because that is when free agency will officially open up. And it will allow us fans to see how serious the Red Sox front office is about making some of these moves, like Sam Kennedy in a press conference acknowledging the moves that needed to be made and saying allegedly that the plan is to do what they need to do to get back into contention. So what that looks like remains a mystery, but hopefully they do make those types of moves. And one of those moves that could be made could involve trading an outfielder that the Red Sox currently have on the team. I think there's going to be some hard decisions that the Red Sox organization is going to have to make, and we're going to have to expect and anticipate that there may be guys that were on the major league roster in 2024 that may no longer be here in 2025 because they need to be trade pieces for them to get frontline pitching. So when you look back at the season of these outfielders, Jarren Duran clearly was the team MVP, especially at the plate. Just was super consistent all season long until the last month of the season, and was the go-to guy in terms of his skill set and his ability to do a lot of different things. I mean, defensively, he made some very nice plays too in the outfield, and his ability to steal bases obviously is something that can't easily be replaced. So Duran is somebody to me who the Red Sox absolutely should keep around. I just think he's too valuable in that leadoff spot to let go of. And he relatively was consistent. I mean, he batted .284 in the first half of the season and .286 in the second half. So he was in a situation where it was relatively close in terms of his numbers in the first and second half. Slightly better numbers he put up overall in the second half. I mean, his slugging percentage was a .483 in the first half and a .506 in the second half. Ultimately, it really felt like it was the last month of the season and the fatigue that came with that caused him to struggle a lot, because his numbers are significantly different in every other month than they are in September. I mean, he hit .299 in August, and that dropped all the way down to .241 in September. His on base percentage was a .359 in August compared to just a .287 in September. So he struggled a lot more in the last month of the season. And in the Red Sox last series of the season, in which they dropped 2 out of 3 against the Tampa Bay Rays, they lost the first game 2-1 and the second game 7-2. And then they pulled out a 3-1 win in the last game of the season to at least end on a positive note. But Jarren Duran went 1 for 4 in the first game when they lost 2-1. And then in the second game, he went 0 for 3. And then in the third game, when the Red Sox won 3-1, he went 1 for 4 again. So he had a relatively quiet series. And that series was representative of Jarren Duran in all of September. He just had a really quiet month. And that primarily is due to the fact that he played basically every single day. I mean, he only missed 2 games of the season, and he was batting out of that leadoff spot every single day. And while I'm glad that the Red Sox seem to have finally found their established leadoff hitter, and they were able to stretch him out to get him more used to playing every day, so that hopefully in the future that pays dividends for him, and he has more of the stamina to be able to play every day and not struggle significantly in the last month. But on the same token, he could have definitely used some days off, especially towards the end when the Red Sox were falling more and more out of playoff contention. It might have been best for them to give him a break so that he could be able to at least contribute as much as he has been all season long when he was in the games, because it can be a little bit of a knock on somebody's confidence if they're continuing to play every day and in the last month of the season they're not clicking offensively as much as they have before. So in his mind, he's probably like, wow, I had a bad September. Like, what am I going to do? And that can be demoralizing for a hitter. So I would have liked to see them sprinkle in some off days for him in the mix. But the problem was with David Hamilton being injured at the end of the season, not being able to play, they lost a lot of speed on the base paths. And if Jarren Duran had sat, that would have only really been Rafaela in the lineup, who has that high caliber speed that the Red Sox used to their advantage a lot this year. So yes, I understand why they did it. They wanted to build up that stamina for him in the leadoff spot and give him exposure to playing every day, so that long term he's used to playing every day out of that number 1 spot in the order. But it was tough to see him play in September and see how he just clearly was fatigued and needed an extra day or 2 of rest, and the Red Sox didn't give that to him. And I think especially when they shut down Devers and decided to finally place him on the injured list with his shoulder problem, they said, well, we don't want to lose Duran for many games moving forward, because then we're losing 2 key bats in our lineup. So unfortunately, circumstances that were out of their control helped them to make that decision and kind of made them feel backed into a corner about it. But he was super fun to watch this year, and it was definitely tough to watch him in that last month of the season. But he brings so much to the table. And the question now is, what does his future look like in a Boston Red Sox uniform? Is he going to be here? Do the Red Sox feel like he's the leadoff hitter of the future? Did they do all this year because they want to acclimate him into that role and say, hey, you are our go-to guy in the leadoff hole moving forward in your career with the Boston Red Sox? Or did they do this year because they didn't really feel like they had a better fit in the leadoff spot, but they plan to rearrange some things with the lineup this offseason and move Jarren Duran and reconfigure somebody else into the leadoff spot so they can justify being able to move him? So there's lots of decisions that have to be made with the outfield, and I wouldn't be surprised if he at least comes up in conversations with other teams. If teams call up the Red Sox and say, hey, we'll give you so-and-so if Jarren Duran is included in the package. I'm not doubting that that'll be a thing, and the Red Sox will at least be open to conversations to see what teams have in mind for what they would offer for somebody like Duran, because he's the type of player that there needs to be a very good return if he's going to be moved. Because we're looking at a guy here who won All-Star Game MVP and had a massive season for a Boston Red Sox team that struggled a lot in the second half, and he was one of the very few constants that would continue to hit and continue to perform. So the Red Sox cannot settle when it comes to a package for Duran. I don't think he should be moved at all. I think he needs to stay. I think he's too valuable. But if they were to move him, the return better be insane. So I think there might be conversations where he comes up. I think the Red Sox will have conversations about all of their outfielders. I mean, Rafaela is going to be tough to move because they just extended him. So that'd be kind of a tough look. But I think they might also have conversations about Wilyer Abreu, and they kind of need to figure out who fits into the puzzle. And they also have to consider the Tyler O'Neill situation, because if he walks in free agency, they're losing a key right-handed power bat in the lineup. So then they have to think about, well, who do we replace him with? So lots of roster decisions when it comes to the outfield. Do I think Duran's going to be moved? Ultimately, no. Do I think he'll be in conversations about being moved? Potentially, yes. So we'll have to see as the offseason progresses what those types of conversations look like, what some of the reports are saying, whether they're actually having serious conversations about Duran or not, because ultimately at the end of the day, nobody can deny how valuable he is to this team. And if the Red Sox are going to move him, it better be for some very good return. So we'll have to see what happens with that. And coming up, we're going to be talking about a player who may have just barely earned his way into a starting role in the Red Sox infield in 2025. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. PrizePicks puts its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quickly as 15 minutes. And I'm sure you know how that goes. We all like to get our money quickly when we win it, not as much as when we lose it. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead up to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. It's funny that I mentioned Taco Tuesday because today, on a Tuesday, it's actually National Taco Day, so make sure you celebrate with that. But just download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup if you use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB on the PrizePicks app. PrizePicks, run your game. So many offerings and so many things that PrizePicks can do to absolutely change your life. So make sure you check that out today. The Boston Red Sox have a lot of things to think about and a lot of decisions to make when it comes to the roster for 2025. They have to go all out. There's nothing else to it. They have to go all out if they want to put themselves back in a place of contention for 2025. And that means making big moves in free agency or trading for guys. It just has to be a major offseason for this Boston Red Sox team. And they have a few prospects in the system that are very talented right now, including one in Christian Campbell, who is making his mark in AAA and could come up and potentially be in the mix for a starting second baseman role, because it's pretty established that Trevor Story will be the starting shortstop. But the question is, who is the starting second baseman? Is it Vaughn Grissom? Is it Christian Campbell? Is it Enmanuel Valdez? Is it David Hamilton? I think the latter two that I just named, in Valdez and Hamilton, will start the season in AAA. They've always kind of been used in a role in case there's injuries and they need somebody to come up. But if they're going to trade one of those infielders, now is a good opportunity to do that, because David Hamilton had a good season in the 2-hole, established himself as a very reliable hitter, and especially with his speed and what he does on the base paths, and other teams being able to see the Red Sox fool pitchers because of the speed of Duran and Hamilton, they could find a trade partner for somebody like Hamilton, and it's also making a little bit of space within the infield. So if they do want to move him, his speed alone is something that provides value for other teams. it's not very common that you see players of his caliber with that type of speed. So this could be the offseason to move him or move Valdez, because Valdez has kind of gotten the shaft in terms of being called up, then being sent down, being called up, being sent down. There hasn't really been much consistency at all with Valdez and staying in the majors. So if they don't feel like there's a spot for him, they might want to package him in with a higher caliber player for a pitching type of return. So again, lots of decisions to make in the infield, but Vaughn Grissom certainly made his mark in the last few weeks of the season since being called up to the majors from AAA. On Friday night in the Red Sox 2-1 loss against the Tampa Bay Rays, he had started that game for the fourth time in 5 games. And after that game, he was 7 for 18, which is a .389 batting average with a double, 2 RBIs, and 2 steals since being called up from Worcester. It was a rough year for him in general because his spring training groin/hamstring injury lingered for months, but he did have a positive finish to the season, including a productive stint at AAA Worcester that allowed him to be called up. And then he had a big game on Friday night. He went 3 for 4 in the first game of the series, which was huge for him, and he scored a run in that game. Then when the Red Sox lost game 2, 7-2, they didn't produce a lot of offense in general. He went 0 for 3 in that game. The Red Sox only had 5 hits, so pretty putrid offensive performance overall. Then they won game 3, 3-1, and he went 1 for 3 in that game with 2 runs scored, and he also took a walk. So he definitely was starting to really get going and show that he was starting to figure out what to do and how to succeed at the major league level at the plate, because early on he really had started off slow and he wasn't able to find a lot of hard contact at the plate. But in the last 7 days of the season, he batted .438. His overall batting average on the season was a .191 with a .246 on base percentage. But that .191 was a batting average that had grown from something that was so low prior to that. So he started inching his way up closer to the 200 average mark. And I think if the Red Sox had some more games left in the season, he would have been able to get that average up to 200, because he was definitely trending upward and in the right direction. And when he got called up, he was able to click offensively. And it now has people wondering, did he just have a good stint when he got called up? Or is this the Vaughn Grissom that we should expect moving forward? And that's going to be a big thing going into spring training, is what is he going to look like? Is he going to carry over what we saw in those last couple of weeks of the season since his call up from Worcester, the guy who was making hard contact at the plate and was putting together multiple hits to be able to contribute in a valuable way to this Red Sox offense? Or is he going to go into spring training and we're going to see a guy who is struggling to stay healthy, and even if he is healthy, kind of lingering and having a slow return? It could go either way, and that's what I'm going to be monitoring. And he has to have a big spring training if he wants to earn that starting spot at second base, because the Red Sox organization, Craig Breslow, already mentioned that it's going to be based on performance and how people are playing in order to determine who that starter is going to be. I don't see them trading for an infielder. I just don't think that's really necessary, because you have Casas and Devers in the corners, and then you have Story at shortstop. So the question really is second base. And when the Red Sox traded for Vaughn Grissom, when they sent Chris Sale to the Braves, their intent was for Grissom to be the starting second baseman. I mean, that's why they gave up Sale and were willing to take on a lot of Sale's salary for this season, was because they were trying to find their second baseman of the future. And they're really hoping and banking on that being Grissom, because, again, it would be a tough look on the Red Sox that Chris Sale went out and won the Cy Young this year with another team, and then they bring in Vaughn Grissom and he doesn't perform to the level of expectations that the Red Sox were hoping for when they traded for him. So it's going to be a big offseason for him to continue to develop his game and showcase the version of him that we just saw in the last couple weeks of the season. And then when he comes into the season next year, hopefully it's at the point where the Red Sox can say, okay, this is our starting second baseman. This is a guy who has shown a ton of improvement over these last few months of the season between being in Worcester and being in Boston. So we trust him and his ability and his performances. But Christian Campbell is right on his tail doing really big things in Worcester right now. So the competition is going to be tight for second base. But either way, when you look at the situation and you look at both of these guys together, you know that the future at second base is definitely bright because there's talent there. And if they do start Grissom at second base and he's not performing, I don't think the Red Sox would hesitate or be afraid to call up Campbell and say, hey, this is your opportunity to come and shine. You've shown us a lot of what you can do from a competitive standpoint at the AAA level. So this is your time now to come up and really shine at the major league level. So I feel like I could see them doing that because they did trade for Grissom recently in hopes that he would be the guy. I think I could see them starting him in that role, but then he's going to be on a tight leash. If he starts to struggle and isn't performing well for consecutive games at a time, then I think maybe they consider replacing him with Campbell, who's waiting in the rafters. So things I definitely would like to see is for him to get better against right-handed pitching. He only batted 179 against right-handed pitching this year, and versus left-handed pitching, he batted 238. So it's drastically different how much better Grissom is when he's facing a lefty. So if he can get his numbers up a little bit more against right-handed pitchers, then he'll be a lot more dangerous overall as a hitter. He hit 212 at home and 170 on the road, which, I mean, ultimately being able to hit well at home is a good thing because a lot of Red Sox hitters could not hit well at Fenway this year and they lost so many games at home compared to on the road. So, hey, if they have a guy who can hit better at Fenway, then by all means, please help us out in that way. So his second half was big. I mean, he hit 333 in the second half compared to 148 in the first half, which is so understandable because of his health and the fact that he had been injured in the first half and battling some things and was on the bench a lot and wasn't really at the point where he was able to perform at the level that he did. But seeing that he was batting over 300 in the second half has to give us some hope and promise that he could be a guy moving forward that's reliable as long as he can stay healthy, because we saw it happen as soon as he was healthy and he had been performing well at both AAA and in the majors. Then we know, okay, so this is a guy here who is had to have the potential to be a really good hitter for this team. We just hadn't gotten the opportunity to see it yet because he was hurt. So hopefully he's able to stay healthy. This will be big for him moving forward, this upcoming spring training, to determine if he is a guy who could be a key piece for this Red Sox team moving forward. Another key piece potentially in the future that we got to catch a glimpse of over the weekend is Quinn Priester. Could he be somebody who could be part of the Red Sox rotation moving forward? You're about to find out. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel is so much fun because you can win lots of money, but once you get started on it, you won't look back. Don't say I didn't warn you, but it could be an absolute game changer for you. So make sure you check out FanDuel today. Also, check out Game Time today if you're looking for last minute ticket deals for any type of live event that you want to go to, whether that's with friends, on a date, with family, whatever you like to do for these outings where you go and catch a live entertaining event, like a sporting event, Broadway show, comedy show, you name it, a concert, they're all on there. And Game Time is great because it gives you a good deal, but it also shows the view from your seat when you're purchasing your tickets. You can make sure that you are not wasting your money, because I've, in the past, before I discovered Game Time, bought tickets to Red Sox games at Fenway Park, not realizing that there was a pole blocking my view of the field. And you can imagine how annoying that must have been for me. So you can check the view from your seat, and also the ticket prices are a lot lower than they are on other ticketing vendors. So if you want to ensure that you're getting a good deal for the money that you're spending, Game Time is 100% the place for you. It'll be crazy when you compare prices to other sites that do similar things and sell tickets, and you'll notice the difference. So check that out today. The Boston Red Sox are desperately in need of a huge offseason heading into 2025. They have to make moves to make the Boston Red Sox a better team that can compete in 2025, and that we're not sitting here talking about potentially finishing the season in last place in the division again and barely getting to 500 to end the season as their record. That's just a no-go. The Red Sox barely finishing with an 81-81 record. So they saved themselves from yet another losing season, but that's unacceptable. The mentality shouldn't be, oh, the season is a win if we hit 500. They're the Boston Red Sox. They can afford to go out and get the players needed and be a more competitive baseball team. Now, one player who could make the Red Sox more competitive in 2025 is Quinn Priester, who made his Red Sox debut in the Red Sox 3-1 win against the Tampa Bay Rays on Sunday. He went 5 innings, giving up 4 hits and just 1 earned run with 2 strikeouts and a walk. And he did get the win in the game, so he was able to record his first win in a Boston Red Sox uniform, which was amazing to see. Now, he has the chance to develop into a really significant arm for the Red Sox moving forward. I mean, obviously, crazy small sample size because he only had 1 outing so far at the major league level. But if that outing is any indication of what he could be, then that's a very promising sign. He came over to the Red Sox in a midseason prospect swap that sent Nick York to the Pittsburgh Pirates. He made 9 starts at AAA Worcester while striking out just shy of 10 batters per 9 innings. 24-year-old who stepped up massively for that outing in his major league debut with the Red Sox when he pitched an absolute gem. And it's not easy for a player to go out there and make their major league debut. A lot of times it's a lot of pressure and they get super nervous because the spotlight's on them. There's lots of people watching them and they're not necessarily used to that and aren't used to handling the pressure that comes with knowing there's all those eyes on you. But he went out there and he looked super composed and calm on the mound. And it looked like it was hardly any transition for him from AAA to the majors. It was pretty fun to watch because he just went out there and pitched with so much confidence and ease. So now, when you think about the Red Sox and their state in 2025, what does this mean for the starting rotation? I mean, obviously, Pavetta's a free agent. I don't see him coming back. But then you have Tanner Houck, Brian Bayo, and Cutter Crawford, who each made 30 starts this season for the first time in their careers, which ultimately in the long run is going to pay off for them. Didn't necessarily pay off in the second half this year because they started to get super tired and you could tell that their arms were going and they had some fatigue when they were in their later starts. But now they've gained a little bit more endurance to be able to throw more throughout the course of the season next year and beyond. And hopefully, as a direct result of having more endurance, that means they'll be able to pitch deep into their starts and be fine and still be able to pitch at a high level. So you have those 3. And now they have Lucas Giolito coming back, who they're hoping will be able to be that 4 or 5 starter for them. But they need a number 1 starter. And I love that they have depth now with Priester there and Richard Fitz, who also made a couple impressive starts for the Red Sox late in the season this year. Those two guys are certainly guys who have shown potential. But again, if they bank on one of them going into the rotation and say they have Tanner Houck, Brian Bayo, Cutter Crawford, Lucas Giolito, and then either Quinn Priester or Richard Fitz as the number 5 starter, then they're still entering the season with question marks because is Cutter Crawford going to perform better than he did in 2024? Is Brian Bayo going to show up as second half Brian Bayo or first half Brian Bayo? Is Tanner Houck still going to pitch on ace caliber level like he was in the first half of the season? Is Lucas Giolito going to be able to bounce back from his injury and be effective? And these two players here with Richard Fitz and Quinn Priester, the way that they pitched, are those numbers and the performances that we saw what to expect from them in a small sample size? Or is it not them? And if they're out there more, they're going to start to struggle. So I don't think either of these two players should start the season in the Red Sox rotation, because as far as I'm concerned, if they pull that card and they don't go out and acquire a starter, then once again, just like the last couple seasons, the starting rotation is entering the season with a bunch of question marks. So they definitely still need to go out and get a bona fide, no doubt, number 1 starter that they know they can rely on. They need to get that this offseason. And maybe they keep Priester and Fitz around as longer relief guys. Maybe the guys who pitch 3 innings in relief if a starter isn't able to go that deep into a game and they don't want to pitch a different guy every inning after that. Maybe they bring in one of them to string together a few innings of work so that they still feel involved and feel like they're in key spots with this team, but they're not necessarily taking a chance on them being in the rotation and being able to succeed there. So I feel like that could be a good plan, especially with the Red Sox needing to revamp its bullpen right now because of how much it struggled in the second half. Maybe those two become bullpen arms and they have Whitlock back to pitch in the bullpen. They have Liam Hendricks back to pitch in the bullpen. And they have guys like Justin Slayton who were reliable this year out of the bullpen, and Luis Guerrero and Zach Penrod. Like, that's a solid young group of players to pitch out of this Red Sox bullpen. So maybe if they acquire 1, 2, possibly arms to pitch out of the bullpen, they give the young guys a shot in the longer relief roles. So they definitely need to go out and get a bona fide number 1 starter. And when it comes to Fitz and Priester, I really like that they both showed a lot of potential in the starts that they did make with Boston. And maybe they enter the fold next year as longer bullpen arms, guys who pitch in 2 to 3 inning type of stints. So no question marks, please. That's the biggest thing here, is I don't want the Red Sox rotation to have question marks going into 2025. And I just worry that if they try to take the chance on the young guys, it'll be too many question marks again and it'll backfire on them. Be aggressive, make the moves, but find spots for the young guys who showed a lot of potential this year. Then they could be in good shape and heading on the right path. So we'll see what happens there. As always, keep the faith. Be sure to check out Locked On MLB next as we prepare for these wild card series to start, which hopefully will be fun. You can hear from host Sully, aka Paul Sullivan, and he will break down everything going on in the playoff race. So enjoy that. You can find that wherever you listen to podcasts. Keep the faith, go Red Sox, and I will catch you on the flip side.